We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the new season of Ahkam SOS. MashaAllah, it's a new season, new show, and we've got a new set, inshallah, to take us through this season where we will be discussing all your questions to do with Islamic duties and practices, inshallah. I'm your host, Mohsin Shah, and joining me 2 meters away is Sheikh Ali Wa. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Good to see you again. Happy to be back here in the studio rather than on the Skype.
Alhamdulillah. We thank Allah Azza wa Jalla that we are
Ahsan.
back.
I would
Alhamdulillah.
like to thank all the viewers as well for being patient with us during those times of quarantine and also of self-isolation, where we had to, due to the government restrictions, we had to use Skype and we had to use other online programs in order to continue to deliver the Ahkam to you guys. But inshallah, we're back now for the new season, and inshallah, we'll be discussing Hajj, considering Hajj season is a couple of weeks away. And inshallah, me and the Sheikh will be going through your questions in regards to the Ahkam and to the Hajj, not from just Sayyid Sadiq Hafadullah, but also other Maraja as well. And not forgetting that we will be taking all of your questions. Now, if you have a question you'd like to ask, whether it is in regards to Hajj, or maybe it be in regards to prayer, or Khums, or Sadaqah, any question you have, you can send it to us via the WhatsApp number or the email address, inshallah. Also, you can phone in, and if you'd like to discuss your question, we're more than happy to take your call. I mean, the Sheikh will be more than happy to answer your question. Any question, there's no subject that is silly, there's no subject that is taboo. We don't need to know your name, we don't need to know where you're calling from. Just call, give us your question, and we'll do our best to answer that. Inshallah, we'll begin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Sheikhna, what is Hajj?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Hajj in the Arabic language means al-qasd. Al-qasd means intending to go to somewhere. That's why we call it Hajj. Hajju ila. So I'm going to a place or somewhere. And in overall, the Hajj itself is basically a set of sacred rituals, and it is implemented in a holy land, the land of the Haram, the Kaaba, and the surroundings, the Arafat land, you have Muzdalifah land, you have the Mina land, and so forth, in which millions gather every year to perform this act of wajib in this holy land, and to basically respond to the call of Nabiullah Ibrahim alayhi salam with this regard, the call for the Hajj, and to worship this in this holy place, Allah Azza wa Jal, and to remember the day of judgment when billions and billions of people gather in that scorching heat wave in the day of resurrection. When we, for example, go to the Arafat or Mina or Muzdalifah, we can feel this, the heat wave of the Arabia, and when you are actually with people walking towards a point. And of course, it is a spiritual journey in which the one would, of course, after all these rituals, will go back to his hometown with a great and new change in his life. And of course, in overall, the one should be mustati', the one should be capable for this journey, otherwise it's not wajib. The one should be able to fulfill the requirements and the cost of the Hajj both ways in the return journey, to be able to perform this worship and ibadah. And of course, for the istita'a, it means that you have to wait and to see when you are able to meet this category of istita'a. Let's say for Salah, you have to wait for the time of the Salah. When the time approaches, you pray. For the fast, you wait for the crescent of the first night of month of Ramadan. For the jihad, again, for the Humus, and so forth. But for the Hajj, you have to wait and see when you have the means for the Hajj, the amount of money you've saved, for example. The way to Hajj is safe. You have the passports, the visas, and so forth. All these criteria for the Hajj. So the one should basically tries to get this, to meet this criteria, the istita'a. We see in the Holy Quran that, for example, there's a complete chapter and surah with the name of Al-Hajj, Surah Al-Hajj. Although there are other ibadat, wajib, such as fasting, such as Salah, I don't think there is any chapter with the name of Salah, Surah Al-Salah, or Surah Ramadan, for example, or Surah Al-Sawm, and so forth. But for the Hajj, there's a chapter for it, subhanAllah. And the Hajj also mentioned in other, for example, other chapters and surah, such as this one in Surah Al-Imran, ayah 97. Allah Azza wa Jal mentions, the obligatory of the Hajj. He says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَلِلَّهِ عَلَى النَّاسِ حِجُّ الْبَيْتِ مَنْ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. It is obligation upon the people who are mustati', are capable to go to Hajj. وَمَنْ كَفَرَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ. And the one who rejects and refuses this wajib act, and when you are capable and mustati', then Allah Azza wa Jal is, He's not in need of His creatures. So وَمَنْ كَفَرَ. Kafara means the ones who rejects, the ones who conceals the truth. So it's important that the one who is able to go to Hajj, all the means, all the criteria are met, make sure that the one goes to Hajj, otherwise he has committed a sin by neglecting this great obligation.
Excellent, Sheikh. I think it's one thing to even to think about is with Hajj and the rituals of Hajj, they really resemble the story of Hazrat Ibrahim and also Hazrat Ishmael, the whole Safa and Marwa and the Zamzam water and so forth. Inshallah, a discussion for another time. Sheikhna, you mentioned about the Quran and so forth. What about the narrations? What do they state about the benefits of performing Hajj?
In the sermon of Fadak by Fatima al-Zahra salamullah alayha, she mentions in her sermon the wajibat, Salah, Sawm, Jihad, Zakat, and so forth. She also mentions the Hajj and what is the benefits or the outcome from the Hajj. She says, Salamullahi alayha, wal Hajj tashyidan lid-din. And Allah Azza wa Jal made Hajj obligatory, wajib, as a construction of religion, to construct religion, to establish religion. Hajj by itself, it provides this feature that constructs the religion, establishes the religion, provides a great foundation for religion. And that's why you see millions go every year and meet and talk and have debates and discussions and sit down and visit and so forth. A great opportunity for the Muslims to meet in this great place, the symbol of the Tawheed in the holy city of Mecca. The hadith from Imam As-Sajjad Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, he says, حُجُّوا وَاعْتَمِرُوا تَصَحَّ أَبْدَانُكُمْ. He says, go to Hajj and also go for Umrah as well. The result would be, the benefits are, number one, تَصَحَّ أَبْدَانُكُمْ. You will have a healthy body. You want to, let's say, fitness for your body, then go to Hajj. وَتَتَّسِعْ أَرْزَاقُكُمْ. And you will have increase in sustenance and rizq. You want more money, go to Hajj. وَتُكْفَوْنَ مَؤُونَاتِ عِيَالِكُمْ. And the expenses of your families and children would be fulfilled. You don't have to worry about it. So all these benefits from Hajj, in which mentioned in this hadith, also from Imam Amir al-Mu'minin Ali alayhi salam, he mentions about the Hajj as well. He says, Al-Hajju al-Mu'tamiru wafdullah. The one who goes to Hajj or Umrah and Umrah, they are the visitors of Allah Azza wa Jal. See how important this Hajj or Mu'tamir is. Al-Hajju al-Mu'tamiru wafdullah. وحق على الله تعالى أن يكرم وفده ويحبوه بالمغفرة. And Allah, He puts it as a right in which to honor this visitor and to bestow this visitor what? Forgiveness. So you get honor and forgiveness from Allah Azza wa Jalla. A great position for the one who is a Hajj or Mu'tamir. So we try, inshallah, to fulfill this duty, and we try, inshallah, and it's just once a year, once in your lifetime. The Hajjatul Islam, the Wajib Hajj, is only once in your lifetime. And you can go every year, as I've said. If you want more money, rizq, sustenance, you can go every year. And in some narrations, it mentions that the one who goes every year, he will never see poverty. So benefits from Hajj are immense and huge.
Awesome. Shaykh, we've got some questions from the WhatsApp, and with your permission, I'd like to ask them. First question is, what are the criteria to Hajjat al-Islam obligations? Hajjat, I think it means Hajjat al-Islam obligation.
Hajjat al-Islam is the first and the only wajib Hajj which Allah Azza wa Jalla wants from the believer, the Ibadullah Azza wa Jalla. Just one Hajj in your lifetime, which is known as Hajjatul Islam. So the criteria are: number one, the one should be baligh, the one should be in the age of adolescence. You have reached the age in which now all the ahkam and a'mal of wajib must be implemented. So in this age, be it, let's say, 10 or for the females, for example, completing the age of 9 to 10, or for the boys reaching the age of bulugh, could be 13, it could be 14, it could be 16, whatever is the age, depending on the signs of the bulugh. In that age of adolescence, it becomes wajib if they are, of course, as we said, mustati' and capable. Number two, the one should be sane. So there's no wujub of Hajj for the insane. Number three, to be free. For the slaves, they have no wujub for the Hajj. And number four, the one should be, which I just mentioned, to be mustati', capable and able to perform the Hajj by fulfilling all the costs of the Hajj by the return journey. So if you have all these criteria, then the Hajj becomes wajib on you. Otherwise, it doesn't.
So what if one isn't a mustati, as in the criteria is not upon them, but they go and perform Hajj anyway? Is that okay for them? If they don't meet the criteria, but they went and they performed Hajj, is the Hajj accepted?
You see, the Hajj, the one if you do not meet these criteria, let's say you go and you're a child, you're only 6 years old, your parents take you to Hajj, or 7 years old, or let's say 8 years old, and you go to Hajj, and it's your first Hajj, it would not be considered as Hajjatul Islam. Because you have to be adolescents, baligh. So even if you were a child and you were taken to Hajj, you have to repeat, or let's say do the Hajj again. If you meet the criteria and you become mustati', you have the means, you have the money to go to Hajj, then that second Hajj becomes Hajjatul Islam. Otherwise, if you went to Hajj while you were a child, it's just going to be mustahab Hajj. Otherwise, it's not going to be considered as Hajjatul Islam.
I see. Shaykhna, we're going to go for a short break, inshallah, but join us after the break as we continue our discussion of Hajj, and inshallah take more of your questions in regards to Ahkam. See us after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
have a duty towards the preservation and the propagation of the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Indeed, one of the best ways to work towards the reappearance of Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajul sharif is through promoting the values of Karbala. Imam Hussein Media Group is the only Shia television network that broadcasts globally in 5 different languages: Arabic, Farsi, Turkish, Urdu, and English. We are appealing to the lovers of Imam Hussein alayhi salam worldwide to support the channel such that it may continue its global operations. Imam Hussein Media Group is seeking 1,000 partners to pledge to a £14 contribution per month. This will allow the channel to sustain its operating costs as we continue to spread the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in multiple languages across the globe. You be a part of this great legacy and donate today. You can pledge in 2 ways. www.imamhussein3.tv/donate will take you direct to our donation page where you can pledge monthly. Or you can call or WhatsApp us on 0044 793 9917163. Imam Hussein TV, your gateway to Karbala.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS. Just a quick reminder to all our viewers that this is a live show and we do take in your questions. If you have any question you'd like to ask, send it in via the WhatsApp, send it via email. If you'd like, you can phone us as well. And me and the Sheikh will do our best to answer all your questions. Inshallah, it doesn't matter what question you ask, whether, what topic it is, whether it's you find it silly or taboo, it is our duty to give you the Islamic fiqh answer to these questions. We don't need to know your name. We don't need to know where you're, messaging from or where you're asking from. Just give us your question, and inshallah, me and the Sheikh will do our best to answer it. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Sheikhna, if I can, more questions from the WhatsApp. We're quite popular today. Is there anything to make qadha prayers easier and quicker?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Basically, you can ignore the mustahabbat parts of the salah, so you just do the wajib parts. I think that would make the salah a lot easier. That's number 1. Number 2, if you can pray with each wajib salah. So when you wake up in the morning for the Fajr salah, you finish your Fajr salah, you pray 2 extra as a qadha. Dhuhr, Asr, same thing. You pray your wajib, Dhuhr, Asr. When you finish them, you do all the mustahabbat, and then you do afterwards the qadha and so forth. That's, I think, best way to quicken the qadha salah.
Excellent. I think it's quite important. People should try and keep an account of all the qadha prayers that you have, and slowly take out time to actually repay, because this is technically a debt which you owe to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So inshallah, all the brothers and sisters, if you have qadha prayers, inshallah you'll be able to pray those and erase that debt as soon as possible. Another question from the WhatsApp, Sheikhna. If one has chewing gum in his mouth during salah and he doesn't realize, does it make his salah batil? So someone's praying. See, it doesn't mention if the person was chewing the gum or it was just there on the side and he wasn't aware. So take the question as you'd like to take it. What is the Hokum here?
Having the chewing gum or even some food on the side of the mouth should be fine, but you shouldn't eat them or chew them. In other words, that brings you out of the state of the salah. So just have them on the corner, that's fine, but do not chew or eat them, in which would cause that you are in the state of out of the salah. So that's important.
I see. Excellent. Shaykh, let's get back to our discussion on Hajj. What are the matters that fulfilled the criteria, the ability of istita'a?
Istita'a basically for the individual, one initially should have the means for the Hajj. Let's say the food provisions, the means of travel, the cost of the travel. he can actually purchase the tickets, or let's say to pay for the group that he's joining, be able to actually reach those holy cities and sites, be able to go and return back home. Also, the one should be mustati' in terms of physical ability. So he's not paralyzed, la samahullah. Be able to perform the A'mal Hajj himself. Number 3, the one should be able to go to Hajj without obstacles. Let's say if there is a war and the borders are closed, then you can't go. Or let's say they don't issue visas. Or like now, in which they've stopped actually this ritual due to the pandemic and so forth. So there should be no obstacles for the Hajj. And number 4, there should be enough time to perform the A'mal of Hajj. So if you arrive, let's say, very late and you can't go to Arafah and be in Arafah, then you haven't actually been able to perform the Hajj, because the Hajj starts with Arafah basically, on the day of Arafah, on the 9th of the Hajj. So if you reach on the day of Eid, on the 10th of the Hajj, then it's too late. You haven't actually witnessed Arafah. So you have to make sure you meet all these criteria, be able to actually perform the Hajj completely.
Shaykhna, what if you are a mustati, or you have, fulfilled the criteria, but you don't go? Have you committed a sin here? Is it like, are you going to get punishment for this?
You see, a person who is a mustati', in other words, he was able to go to Hajj this year. He had the means, the money. There were no obstacles. Physically, he was, well, in terms of the time, he could reach before the day of Arafah, and before even, because he needs to arrive before the day of Arafah to do Umrah first. We'll inshallah come to details that you have to first do Umrah Tamattu', and then you go to Hajj Tamattu', and so forth. You have to have enough time to do all these A'mal, be able to reach and do these A'mal. If not, then it becomes mandatory upon you to go next year with whichever condition is. So you neglected this year's Hajj, and you had the means, you had all the criteria met and available, but you have neglected, so you have to go next year, wajib, even if you don't have the means to go to Hajj. You have to go with bus, for example. I don't know, sleep in the tent, for example. And so forth, or spend more money, for example. Sometimes you have to pay double for the price, and so forth. So the one should, bear this mind that if the Hajj is wajib on you this year, you must go. You cannot ignore it. Otherwise, it becomes wajib next year, at any cost.
Excellent. Shaykhna, if we can go to the WhatsApp questions. What is the hukum for those who are part of your family but leave Islam? So I think the person's asking in regards to the relationship with this person. So, mathalan, if I have a brother who's left Islam, what is my hukum? Do I cut ties with my brother? Do I not speak to him anymore? Or should I try and reconcile, and should I try and bring him back to the path of the Ahlul Bayt? Or, what is the hukum upon me? What should I do?
The Quran mentions وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي أَحْسَنَ, and argue with them with the best of the arguments. So we have to use all the lenient means in which Quran has instructed and told us to do so. And we try to be friend with them and try to attract them towards Islam back, and try to explain to them that what they did is not really the right choice and option. So we have to do our best to bring them back to the right as-sirat al-mustaqim.
Another one, Shaykhna, and a little challenging. If someone is willing to convert from non-Ahlul Kitab religion to a Kitab religion to have temporary muta marriage, what are the requirements for them to be accepted into this marriage? So this person is not part of the Ahlul Kitab. So let's say if this person was a Hindu, okay, so let's say the female is a Hindu, Now she's decided that she'll become a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim just so that they can enter this marital contract with a Muslim. What are the requirements for them to be accepted into the marriage?
They have to basically go back and see the, let's say, the Ahlul Kitab. Would they accept him as Christian, for example?
Okay.
Would they, they got special ceremonies for the one who becomes Christian. So would they consider him as Christian or her as Christian? Then she's a Christian or he's a Christian. So we have to go back and to see what they would consider him as. And we can't judge and say, well, he's now Christian. They have to go back and see if the church accepted them, for example, to be Christians or not. So,
I think, I'm not sure if it's the same person or not, but there's also another one in regards to, can you do muta with someone who is atheist or agnostic? Now, an atheist obviously is someone who denies the existence of God, doesn't really have a religion. Agnostic is also someone who hasn't got a religion, but they believe that there's a superpower or so forth. Are these people or these groups accepted within, the muta, you could say, Ahkam, marital contract?
no, the marriage only can be done within the Muslim, marriage or Ahl Kitab. Other than that, it's not allowed.
I see. No. Excellent. Shaykhna, if Hajj by proxy permissible for non-mustati, one who is not able to perform?
You see, if somebody cannot go to Hajj for any reason, or let's say he's not mustati', he actually don't have the means to go to Hajj, is that right? Is that what the question was? Can he actually do, as they mention, what is known as niyabah, Hajj niyabah? Of course, the one can go to Hajj as a niyabah, but if he in future becomes mustati', it becomes wajib and mandatory upon him to go to Hajj. So this year he went to Hajj on behalf of someone else. They paid him all the cost of Hajj and he went. This Hajj is not considered as a Hajj al-Islam for him. This is a niyabah Hajj. This is a Hajj on behalf of XYZ. But if next year he gained the wealth and the money and the means and the istita'a, it becomes wajib on him to go to Hajj next year as well. Because next year he became mustati'. So this year he went not for himself, on behalf of somebody else. So the Hajj al-Islam should be done when he is fulfilling and the requirement of the istita'a and capable to go to Hajj.
Inshallah. Shaykhna, as you know, on this show, we don't just discuss the ahkam of the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sadiq Shazi. We actually interact and we also discuss many different maraja, as you can see over my shoulder, some of the maraja, the fatwa that we discuss. And one is Sayyid Sistani, hafadullah. What is his opinion in regards to if there is a lady who wants to go to do Hajj and, upon her return, if she goes to Hajj, she would have lost a lot of wealth because of the expenses and so forth. And she comes from a poor household where, the husband doesn't really earn much. Maybe that money could have done more to help them. So if this lady goes to Hajj, the family will be in more of a financial, I wouldn't say a crisis, but let's say difficulty, will be in financial difficulty. Is she still allowed, is she still allowed to go according to Ayatollah Sistani?
Well, if she would have to live in difficulty, then the Hajj would not be wajib for her to go this year. Because one of the also conditions they mentioned, someone mentioned this, that when you go back home, you should have the means and the money for your food and drink and expenses. So you shouldn't go back home and you're poor and you have nothing to eat or drink. So you have to make sure that you've got something back home when you go back you can spend on. So if she faces difficulty in her return from the Hajj rituals, they might have to, they're going to struggle in living expenses, then the Hajj is not wajib on her.
Okay. And this is the fatwa of
Atla
Sistani.
Yes.
Excellent. Sheikh, what about, is it permissible for one to obtain money, maybe through a loan or maybe selling one's property and so forth, in order to become a mustati, in order to go for Hajj? Is that acceptable?
You see, the istita'a, you shouldn't force yourself or seek istita'a. Istita'a has to come to you, in other words. Yani you work every year, you save money every year. Eventually, you have now a good amount of money and wealth. Then you become mustati'. You don't have to sell your property, you don't have to sell your car, your furniture in order to be mustati' for the Hajj. It's not wajib. You might, be living all your life without being mustati'. Many people are, there are millions who are unable to go to Hajj until they die. They're not mustati'. So this is something that you have to fulfill it and achieve it if you actually meet this criteria. Otherwise, you have to basically wait until you are mustati'. In other words, you don't have to force yourself to become mustati' by selling your assets and belongings.
Sheikhna, question from the WhatsApp, if I may. What is the ruling for someone whom is getting a haircut from someone who was not a mahram to them, such as going to a salon? Mathalan, if I was to go get my haircut, and I know some of the viewers have probably seen my new haircut, if a lady was to do it, what is the ahkam on that?
The ulama in overall would not allow for the individual to go to opposite gender in terms of seeking, let's say treatment in hospitals, for example, dentist. They would say that if you can find the same gender, then that's the priority. If you can't find, or let's say the opposite gender is more expert in this field and so forth, then in some exceptions you're allowed. But otherwise, the one should avoid going to the opposite gender in terms of, in all aspects of life. It's not just the haircut or treatment and so forth. As long as there is a same gender professional in this field, then you have to go back to the same gender. If no, there isn't, then that's exception comes in this case.
Ahsan. Sheikh, another question in regards to Hajj from one of the viewers. Assalamu alaikum, great show, really enjoying it. And it says, is it permissible for me to perform the obligatory niyaba Hajj for more than one person?
Inshallah, we will come into the details later on. I'll have, inshallah, mention this later on, inshallah.
Okay. And what is the ruling of the woman who is on a hayd, on her menses, but has to complete Hajj? So maybe she was planning to go to Hajj and then, her monthly cycle came, or maybe she's already there and then, unfortunately, now she's najis. Can she complete her Hajj, or should she come back the following year?
Inshallah, we'll discuss this issue, inshallah, in future, inshallah,
Excellent.
near future, inshallah.
Okay, Sheikh, now, what is the ruling for the mustati from whom the obligation of the Hajj had become due, and then if he dies before performing the Hajj? So someone has met, as you said, the criteria should come to you. You shouldn't go searching for the criteria. This person has the criteria and probably saving up, preparing and everything, and then he passes away. What is to be done here?
It becomes wajib for the heirs to put aside the cost of the Hajj from his inheritance, from his irth, basically, to bring out an amount and the cost of the Hajj, and to do the niyaba, as I mentioned, on behalf of this deceased, to do the Hajj.
Sheikhna, we discussed one fatwa from Ayatollah Sistani, and inshallah we can discuss another one, inshallah, as he's a very, very popular marja and a great marja from Najaf, we must say. If I have taken a loan from my company where I'm working and have still not completed my installments, i.e. my loan is still not paid, and some balance is to be paid, is it permissible for me to perform Hajj?
In terms of the one who is in debt, yes, there's no objection. The one can go to Hajj, perform the A'mal, the rituals, as the Sayyid mentions. Although the debts are due, hasn't been paid yet. But the Sayyid says that your Hajj would not be considered as the Hajjat al-Islam, as we mentioned, as your first Hajj, wajib Hajj, with istita'a, with capability, and so forth, as obligatory Hajj. So you still have to, go back and come when you are mustati' and do the Hajj. This Hajj might be, let's say, mustahab Hajj. You have to make sure that you reach that level of istita'a and capability that you can rely on yourself and pay for all of the costs, and then you can perform Hajj without any issue.
Inshallah. Shaykhna, a question from the WhatsApp, if I may, another one. What is the ruling? If one develops doubt about reciting Alhamd while in the subsequent surah? So maybe I'm in second surah and I'm thinking, oh, did I read Surah Alhamd properly? Did I miss out on an ayah? What is the hukum here?
We have a qa'ida or a rule which says قاعدة تجاوز المحل. If you pass from this stage to another stage, you don't have to worry about the previous stage. Now you are in surah, the short surah, Qul Huwallahu Ahad, for example, and you are in doubt, then for the hamd, then you don't pay any attention. You just ignore it.
You passed it. Fair enough. Shaykhna, what is the virtue and merits of the night prayer, the tahajjud salah, or the namaz-e-shab, as they say in Farsi?
Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he mentioned 7 benefits from praying the Salat al-Layl. He says the prayer of the night, number 1, beautifies the face, beautifies manners, that's number 2. And number 3, freshens up the breath. Number 4, increases sustenance, rizq, if you want money, pray Salat al-Layl. Pays the debt, again, you got money to pay somebody, pray Salat al-Layl. Repels sorrows and strengthens the sight. So these are mainly hawa'ij of your dunya, So Salat al-Layl, although it's a bit difficult to wake up in the middle of the night, you can even wait till the midnight. When it passes, you start these rak'at of Salat al-Layl, these 11 rak'ah, and you will gain khayr al-dunya and akhirah, inshallah.
Inshallah. I've heard it's recommended to do it an hour before Fajr. That's the prime time, you could say, or the best time to.
The closest to the Fajr, the better, and the best.
And also, this doesn't mean that if you have qada prayers, you should pray namaz-e-shab, that your qada prayers take priority. And please, if you have to, do wake up in the middle of the night and do finish off your qada prayers. There's great reward in that. Shaykhna, is it permissible to perform qada or salah on behalf of a living individual?
No, it is not allowed. As long as they're still alive, you can't pray on their behalf the salah. Yes, when they die and you're the eldest son, for example, and he missed the salah, then it becomes wajib on the eldest son to do the qada of his parent, as we mentioned many times about this mas'ala. Otherwise, if he's still living, no, you can't. Even if he can't pray the qada because he's paralyzed, samahullah, there's no qada to be done by somebody else on behalf of this person. Otherwise, no.
Fair enough. Shaykhna, I got a question here from the email. Someone's emailed in. If one knows that he would not be able to find water and invalidates his wudu after the onset of the time of salah or spills the water he has with him, would this be a valid act?
If you have water, you're not allowed to pour this water or waste it away when there is a salah coming due, salah time. So this individual has committed a sin or disobedience, in other words, by wasting this amount of water that's supposed to be used for wudu. But now the hukum changes to tayammum. So he needs to now switch to the second mutahhirat, which is the tayammum, and perform the tayammum and do the salah, and both the tayammum and the salah are valid. Although the Sayyid mentions that as a mustahab precaution, the one should repeat the salah when he has access to water. So he does the salah again with wudu and so forth. But it's not wajib, so you can just pray with the tayammum. But this is the act of disobedience, as I mentioned.
Excellent. Shaykh, a final question for this episode, and it's from the WhatsApp, and that is, as you are aware that some females are classified as independent and don't require permission in order to get married again and so forth. So what are the requirements for a woman to be independent and not require parental consent, such as the father's permission for hand of marriage? So, you know, in terms, I mean, I've heard this, like, if she's previously been married, if she can afford her own, you know, transportation, and she can afford her own roof on her head and so forth. Could you please elaborate a little bit?
Basically, when it comes to the virgin females, ulama would be precautious about this issue. And they say that they need permission from the father.
Yes.
Even if she is mature and reached the age in which she can rely on herself, but because she's a virgin, they need to ask the permission of the father
the guardians,
or the grandfather. These are the main two guardians or the wali of this girl. But if she was married and she divorced, let's say, and now she's independent, as mentioned,
yes, independent,
then there's no need for the permission of the father. Now she's independent and she relies on herself. She can marry herself to any individual who is suitable for her, be it a long term or a short term.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sheikh. Thank you to all of you for joining us on this new episode of Ahkam SOS. Inshallah, we'll be back on Wednesday, I believe, again at 6:30 on Imam Hussein TV 3. Please keep sending in your questions. There's no question that we find silly or taboo, or there's no question that we won't answer. We do our best. We have a research team here. If you are of a certain muqallid, we'll do our best to contact that office or the reps of that office and to find the fatwa that is prescribed to your question. And inshallah, join us again on Wednesday on Ahkam SOS. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Gather queries of your chest with Ahkam SOS.